Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Our mission is to see a world well led. And our strategy to get there? To empower leaders like you to lead every day. So let's get to work.
We're rocking into a new year. Few days in now. I'm excited. Welcome to Lead Every Day. And here's what I've been noticing the last few days. I've watched a lot of football the last couple of weeks, and I'm noticing that the teams that have the best players have a really good chance to win. They don't win all the games. There've been some upsets.
They got a better shot.
They got a really good shot of winning. I'm Randy Gravitt.
I'm Mark Miller.
And we're glad you're here with us as we jump into this conversation. We started yesterday talking about improving our team performance. And today we're going to talk about the importance of talent on a team. I think it's huge.
Sure, it is. In fact, it's one of three critical elements. So I won't bore you with too much history, but about 25 years ago, I used to sell chicken for a living, and we wanted to create a team-based organization. And even though I had been a fan of teams my entire life, and I'd participated on teams my entire life, I had no idea what differentiated the great teams from the majority, right? I mean, very few teams flourish, the majority flounder. And so we went to work, and we worked for years and years and years trying to figure out what's the difference. Yeah. Could we crack the code to create high-performance teams really at will?
And when you say we, you're talking Chick-fil-A.
I was working for Chick-fil-A at the time.
Inc.
And had a huge team of extremely talented people. And we dedicated ourselves for years to trying to figure out what is the magic behind high performance teams.
Okay, so we said yesterday that we're focused on results, but the foundation of that.
Well, it's how do you get those results?
How do you get the results?
Right?
The foundation of it
you got to want
is
results. You got to focus on results. And there are three critical elements. And the first is talent. The team with the greatest talent has the greatest probability of winning.
Yeah, it's funny. I spend a lot of time with teams and organizations, and we do lots of training and speaking, and have a chance to hang out with people. And it's crazy. You start talking to people about what they're trying to do from a talent standpoint. Everybody's struggling to find people, and how do we find people? And you get with people. I mean, I've done some work with people in the service industry who will say basically, if somebody can pass a drug test, we'll hire them, kind of thing. And which that's not our strategy. There's two kinds of talent. There's acceptable talent, and there's exceptional talent. And we're not talking here about just can we fill up a payroll. Right. We're talking about can we fill up a payroll with A players. I mean, people who have that 5-star recruit mindset. Like, everybody should want the very best players that they can get in whatever business or if it is a team. I mean, you got your talent is huge.
Yeah, and you talk about A players. I've had leaders ask me, well, what do you mean by an A player? Here's the most succinct definition I can provide. The player you would hate to lose. Yeah. Those are your A players. Yeah. And what would it look like if you filled your organization with A players?
Yeah.
You actually can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah. That's so cool. I mean, I remember even back when I was coaching years ago, it just like there's a couple kids, you got them, they put them in the lineup, and everything else kind of will be okay if you've got them. But if you took those people out of your organization, it turns into really hard. And we've got great people on our team. I think about the people we have. It's like we're able to do way more because of those A players that we have. And so as you think about your organization, if you're listening here, you're watching on YouTube, wherever you're taking this in today, do you have enough A players on your team to do what we talked about yesterday, what you're trying to do? If you're going to accomplish those results, you got to have those right people. Can you get there with who you have right now? And if you don't, you're going to have to make some adjustments. You're either going to have to change some of the people you have, or you're going to have some new people that you don't have right now.
So how do you attract more A players? We often refer to them as top talent as opposed to typical talent. And we didn't know the answer to that question. So a few years back, we actually tried to purchase some research on what attracts top talent.
It turns out nobody knew the answer, right?
There was no research.
Nobody never asked the
question.
Which is crazy.
We spent months, and we talked to all of the academics, and we talked to all of the big consulting firms. I called Marcus Buckingham, on, and it wasn't there. So we wrote a very, very large check. I'll not tell you how much it was, so that we could conduct research on what attracts top talent to an organization.
Yeah, and we found out actually that there are some things that attract top talent that we'll call them A players versus B players. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not looking for C and D players, but the B players are not necessarily looking for the same things
Yeah.
that the A players are looking for. So, can
Yeah,
you
let's
just give them
hit this
give them a
really
little
quick.
preview?
'Cause
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time.
We'll want to go
unpack
deep
it
on this later. First thing, they want to be well led. A players, top talent, they want a better boss. Now, you may be asking, well, doesn't everybody want a better boss? Well, at some level, but for top talent, being well led is a condition of employment. Once one of these players realizes they're not going to be led well, they're an immediate flight risk.
Yeah, I always say these leaders we're talking about, they don't leave organizations; they leave a lack of leadership. That's what
Yeah,
they
people
leave.
leave organizations.
They leave.
They don't leave organizations.
They leave leaders.
They leave their leaders.
That's right.
Yeah.
They leave their leader,
Yeah.
or their lack of leader.
Their lack of leader. The second thing they want is a brighter future. Now, you're probably thinking, doesn't everybody want a brighter future? Well, at some level, but top talent defines the future differently. Typical talent says the future is Friday.
Right. I'm getting paid.
And I'm getting paid on Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
But top talent, they come into an interview asking different questions. They're asking things such as, how will I learn?
Yeah.
How will I grow?
Yeah.
How will I be challenged? How will I be better prepared for my future as a result of this
They're
work?
thinking about their promotion. They're thinking about, exactly.
Yeah.
They're thinking about retirement even.
Yeah, they're thinking much
way
longer
down
term,
the road.
much
Exactly.
longer
That's
term.
good. There's one more thing they're thinking
Yeah.
about. What's that?
They want to be part of a bigger vision. They want to make a difference in the world. Yes, they want to help their organization be successful, but they really do want to make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. We discovered they really do. They really would rather make a difference than make a living. I mean, it's like they want to make a paycheck. You got to pay them all, and most of the time when you ask people like, what do you have to do to attract top talent? They'll always just revert to, well, you got to pay them. You got to pay everybody. I mean, you got to give everybody a fair wage.
That was not a differentiator
It wasn't.
in our
That
research.
was
it was kind
shocking.
of table stakes.
Well, actually, so many of them told us that we would actually take less if we got to be a part of a place where we have an engaged leader, a place where we can grow, and we're a part of a big vision. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah, their
Shocking.
mindset, but they do think differently.
Yeah. Now, let me mention one more thing, and this was an indirect finding from the research. I mean, that's what we found: better boss, brighter future, bigger vision. But as I began to socialize this with leaders, I actually had some leaders say, "I don't think you got it right." And I'm thinking, well, that's interesting because we spent a lot of money to figure out what top talent wants. And I had leaders say, no, I'm doing that, and I still can't attract top talent. Well, again, I move into questions mode at that point, trying to figure out what's underneath that comment. And what I've discovered is a lot of leaders are missing a critical piece. You have to tell the story. I had a leader share with me that he talks about better leader, brighter future, bigger vision in orientation. I said, well, those people are already on your payroll.
Right, you missed it.
We're talking about using this to attract. So it's really your employee value proposition, and you've got to get it out there proactively in an environment where you have your target employees.
Yeah, it's cool. You said we did research on this. The research pretty extensive. 7,000 people we actually
In
had a
50
chance-
states,
and all
age
over
15 to 65.
Exactly. I mean, this is a broad study, and we found out all of them. I mean, just over and over again, is this idea of we want an engaged leader, we want a place to grow, and we want to be a part of something great. And when we have that, if we get that story out, it actually does become what we call a talent magnet. Your organization,
You're attracting people.
It becomes the employer of choice play that you play. And so, I would encourage you today, as we land this, to ask yourself: do you have engaged leadership? Let's ask it this way: is every person on your payroll well led at every level? If that's not in place, you can start there. Let's get that in place before you start telling people, by the way, that you have these things in place. You better have them in place.
Here's what happens. If you share some version of what we just said,
That's right,
publicly, proactively, and
it's not true,
and you attract these people, and they find it's not true, they're out of there. I had a leader tell me,
and you're in trouble because they hang out with other top talented people.
I had a leader tell me that he had actually tried to take a shortcut, and he said, "I'm just going to pay huge wages," and he said to me voluntarily, that he attracted some amazing people. And I said, well, congratulations. Maybe you found a shortcut. And he said, no, I really didn't find a shortcut. I said, well, what happened? He said 6 months later, they were all gone.
They all left.
Because here's what they really wanted.
Yeah.
They really wanted a better boss, a brighter future, and a bigger vision.
Yeah.
But he tricked them.
Yeah.
He lured them in.
Yeah, and the gig's up.
With cash, and they were there for 6 months, and then we're gone.
Yeah. So in your place, let's start with, do you have everybody well leaded up? And that's the place to start. And once you do, then you can start sharing that story. Are all your people in a growth mindset? We talked about growing and having development plans all like the last few weeks, but you really can focus this year on making sure every single person has a growth mindset. You're expecting them to grow. In fact, if they're not growing, they ought to be going. You don't need them on your team if they're not growing. But if you create an environment where people can grow, you're going to start attracting top talented people. It's the way they think. And then you want to be doing something that's bigger than just profits and revenue. Those things are great, but it's the community impact and the employee promise. And I mean, so many things we could put into the value proposition there of that big vision. You've got a vision yourself, and I encourage you to lean into that and make sure your people know that every time we do this, it's helping that. And that kind of mindset's so powerful. We see it attract people all the time. So we'll, like you said, we'll come back to this conversation later, but if you're going to have a really great team-based organization, you got to focus on your talent level. It starts with having exceptional people, not just acceptable people. You want people who are A player in their thinking. And if you get really good players, you're going to have a good chance to win whatever game it is you got going on. So we want to encourage you to let's level up our talent this year. We're going to go to a better place. We're going to need some better people to help us get there. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Remember, the best leaders lead every day.